Well, TSM is a team that likes to play slow, and so do we. So, I mean, I knew that the first game was going to go to a late game kind of scenario. I didn't really expect it to go into a base race and so on, but I do expect our game against TSM to go very, very, very far into the game, because we are really, really trying to win, and I'm sure they are too. So both teams are going to be giving their best.
And welcome back, and hello everybody. My name is Quickshot. Helping me close out the group stage are Kobe and Officio for what has become the most important NA versus EU game in recent history. Best of one. At least one LCS team will advance today.
We hold on to the small things right now. But yeah, I mean, that is very true, and it's very important, obviously, for both teams right now, especially G2, with all the pressure from all the past failures, but TSM's not exactly at the best international record either.
I mean, all of the pressure for this entire tournament for both of these teams comes down to this game. Only one, as you said, gets to move on to the next stage, and both of these teams have very passionate fan groups that have given them a lot of feedback.
Yeah, we'll find out which one that will be, of course, for Team Solo Mid.
It's a good constructive feedback.
Yeah. Gentlemen, if they win, if TSM pick up the victory here, they will advance as the #3 seed and face Team WE next week in the playoffs, which is potentially a very surprising turn of events, considering how TSM started the tournament.
I mean, we have to just say that...
Thanks for that one, Officio.
I agree, Trevor. Great point. Now, overall, we have to just say that all these, ideas coming into the tournament of, like, this team is going to be slightly stronger than that team, and then maybe Flash Wolves above them, like, that's kind of, it's all out the window. And it's been like that almost since day 2, I feel like, because teams have just been beating each other left and right. It's like 50-50 on who actually takes the win. And that just means now that it's everybody's game.
Yeah, definitely true. And I think the little shot that they had there with Mithy right before was really interesting, because something he talked about, he thinks it's going to go long. When everybody knows that it's just one game, they're less willing to make super aggressive early moves. So I actually do agree with him, and I think that this one we might see a timid opening until we get to these really explosive team fights.
I always get a little bit scared when I hear Mithy say, yeah, it will go long. We will also play for the late game, because whenever G2's been trying to play for late game, they've been falling so far behind. It happened against TSM the last time they played each other. Sven Skaren got like 5 kills early against Trick specifically. TSM were up almost 10k gold, and actually required better late game from G2 to get back in the game, but you can't always rely on that.
You absolutely cannot, especially when you look at how TSM won a game earlier today. They've managed to play relatively well around the late game. They were under pressure, managed to survive and bounce back against the Flash Wolves, who really felt in control the majority of that game.
And the biggest thing I look to in those super long games where it does come down, to those Baron fights or to the 5-on-5 at 50 minutes is the star players making clutch plays. Haunter and Bjergsen both stepped up very big in their game versus Flash Wolves to finish it out.
We'll find out. The Battle of Kings, the King of Europe taking on the Kings of North America. Undisputed in that regard. G2, of course, they still need to keep their tournament hopes alive. With a win here, they'll set themselves up for some tiebreaker scenarios. Fortunately for G2, they have a 2-0 heads up over Flash Wolves, for example, and the Marines just lost a game. So there are some stacks in favor of G2 if they can start by beating TSM.
Yeah, and that's why you don't think about all the, the next steps right now. It's the step #1 for both these teams is win this one game here, and then you can be super happy, obviously, after most likely, at least giving you a great chance of locking that playoff spot. Yes, lock it for TSM, not guaranteed for G2.
All right, I'm hearing that the players are getting ready for picks and bans. So, gentlemen, for the last time between NA and EU in the group stage, what are we looking at picks and bans? Why is 80 carry Kennen for Sven not the most exciting in my opinion?
We're not going to see
but
that.
The game did not lose because of him. Trick had some problems.
I really did feel like that was almost kind of a bait and, psyching out for later in the day. To try and make TSM have to think about some extra variables.
It's next level, right? They knew they were going to lose to SKT. They were just going to psych out TSM. And Kobe's
That's the only reason why they lost.
So last time we saw G2 try and kind of target Haunter a little bit, trying to expect a good matchup up in the top lane. They banned away Kennen as an example. They removed Talia, which is a champion Bjergsen can use to kind of snowball Haunter on a carry. Got rid of those in the first ban phase, and then Ivern obviously against Sven Skaren. And then they first picked Lee Sin. We don't want to see that because it's not great for Trick. obviously also TSM being on blue side, they can always first pick that Lee Sin if they really feel like it is so needed to win.
Yeah, the junglers definitely will be crucial to this matchup because we talked about feedback, and both of those men have been the first ones to receive it. But I am super excited actually about the mid lane. You know, Perks and Bjergsen, best mid laners in their region, going head to head here. Perks has stepped up in a very big way for G2, as has Bjergsen.
So, first ban LeBlanc makes a lot of sense on blue side when you play against, you know, players like Perks, because you can blind pick LeBlanc and there's very few counters to it.
Yeah, when mid lane is this important, you know, LeBlanc and Syndra and the flexible Fizz all are kind of floating around with high priority. And there they are, not floating around much longer, finding themselves on the ban list as well.
And I think it's debatable if banning Lulu Kama here from G2 is really worth it. Because TSM is not a team that plays well around protected AD carry comps, which is of course where these two supports here can really shine. Flash Wolves, in my opinion, had a great strategy where they gave over Karma to TSM and then they took Syndra Lee Sin in return. At least the Syndra will also be extremely valuable for G2. With these bans, like, if Lee Sin is open, that will most likely be the first pick. But obviously, I'm actually looking at Syndra as a very high priority pick.
Exactly, you know, no jungle bans are on the table yet. And both of these players have been targeted with so many of them.
All right, so what is the priority then? There's Lee Sin for Svenskeren, obviously Trick can get his hands on Graves. That could benefit both teams. First pick, what does TSM take?
I think you can actually take Syndra right here and just give Bjergsen his preferred champion, because you can get Lee Sin in the next rotation, seeing as Trick doesn't really play a good Lee Sin.
I agree. We haven't seen the biggest, you know, execution there from Trick on Lee Sin. He just had that one kick at the Baron Pit. I don't think they need to rush it.
Ooh,
And they're not even going to end up going with it, the last, you know, main shielding component here.
Yeah, this is risky. Graves, of course, is open for Trick. It is the only pick he's actually looked good on this tournament, which is perfectly fine against the Ivern. Now, Nuno is a specific Ivern counter, quote unquote, because you can eat Daisy. Like, I'm not really buying into the Nuno hype.
As soon as you say that.
That's actually how Nuno started getting played in scrims, was because people were using Ivern, and then people figured out, hey, we can eat Daisy with Nuno, and then we can try and counter it that way. They're actually doing it right now.
Oh, okay, is it time to disco? Do we put our shoes on or not? Because Trick on this champion has not looked good.
The taunting's already coming through with the Lee Sin and Graves hoverovers here from Svenskeren. It's very obvious already what the entire composition from G2 is going to look like. If you first pick these two champions, there is no hiding anything in your composition.
Now, we scaling on the side of G2. TSM, they want to say, you know what, we can punish you in the laning phase. Zyra already locked in to guarantee a strong 2v2 on the bottom side. Funny enough, though, because you have Ivern on the side of TSM, you have the best scaling jungler as well. So you can also play a really strong late game comp.
I also do like that they're pairing Ivern with actually a damaging support, so that they will have, you know, a decent amount of damage in the mid game to try and push through before G2 can actually spike on this Caitlyn.
All right, do we get Syndra right now from Perks? And if he's afraid of an echo, he can then ban it in the next phase. You can even ban Ari, which was a champion that Bjergsen just used to win a game where TSM fell behind. Seems like it is not going to be the case, and they've sacrificed early game so much. I know they came back last time they played TSM, but they were 10k gold down.
Yeah, with this, you are banking a lot on Sven and his trading ability. He's got to be very, very quick to dodge a lot of the skill shots here from the TSM bottom lane. This is actually a pretty strong TSM bottom lane lock-in here.
Definitely is. So I like the Galio ban. I think actually Galio right now is one of the best top laners available, and we haven't seen Expect use it. Syndra first pick is still an option if it doesn't get banned away.
Now, here's the thing. Shen is, you know, another component where you could add the shield to G2 side as well. We would wonder if that would come through. However, then you do have to worry about the lack of damage. And as you are so fond of saying, Deficio, all of the eggs being put in the basket of Sven.
I actually only tweeted it. I don't think I said it on air, but that counts as well.
Well, let's see what G2 decide to round out the comp with, gentlemen. Phase 2, Ari is the second ban from G2, removing that from Bjergsen, who had a stellar performance in the late game against Flash Wolves. There's one ban left for TSM. They've got Fiora taken away already.
Yeah, so once again, looking at Syndra being locked in here. If Perks does not pick Syndra, it's because he can then pick Orianna as his last pick against it and be fine with that. Now, obviously, with Syndra banned, again, we're rerunning down this mid lane pool.
Orianna blind looks so good right now, with
I like
both
it.
Syndra and Ari already banned out.
Yeah, I like it. Also, Ivern is not really going to pressure the Orianna too much. in the laning phase in terms of ganks. So I think Orianna here makes a lot of sense. And then last pick top for Expect. Unless you need that Gragas right now, but he can also play Nautilus.
I mean, Shen is still up as well. Expect. G2 have already surprised us a little bit with the Nunu. Do they pull a rabbit out the hat and maybe run a Rumble in the top lane? Something that Expect has run a whole bunch.
Probably AD here, yep.
The answer is no, because it's locked in alongside Jace for Team Solo Mix.
All right, so it is going to be a lot of siege pressure coming through, a little bit earlier of a curve for TSM. This can also get boosted very quickly by an Ivern. You talk about Nunu being quote-unquote counter-picked on because he can chomp Daisy, but there's no pressure that Ivern has to worry about here, and we'll see if TSM can actually have him meet up and get early turret pressure.
This is a champion G2 would have loved to play it yesterday, but they simply didn't trust Expect to play it after he failed to execute the Gragas early in the tournament. So they locked in Shen instead, got counterpicked by the Gragas, and lost that top lane.
Expect has played one game of Gragas this year. It was a loss, an abysmal one, and in the most important game, he's playing it again.
And this is a really, really difficult champion with the timings on your ultimate. This could make or break the entire team composition. A good Gragas ultimate splitting up this high damage backline from TSM could make everything collapse for them.
Yeah, whenever you play against this much poke and also disengage from a Zyra and Ivern, the hard engage needs to just be spot on, because it's basically follow-up from G2. Like, once you land the CC from Gragas engage, then Braum can flash in with you. Then Orianna Ball can actually become a great shockwave. But if you miss that first engage, everyone just runs away.
Yeah, I think that Mithy actually did not trick you. He did not lie to Fishio. They are looking for that late game scaling, and TSM might want to push the tempo a bit.
Well, tempo is definitely a tool TSM can tweak. Rumble, Jace, Varus. You see the coaches on stage, Path and Youngbuck shaking hands. What could be the last time between NA and EU? And just as a reminder, at a minimum, at least one of these teams will advance. There is a few fringe scenarios where both could advance. For TSM, win, you take 3rd seed. Going into the playoffs, you will face Team WE. For G2 eSports, you at least guarantee that tiebreaker scenario. NA versus EU from Rio. It's a mid-season invitational group stage. 3 games left to play before we close it out. And let's see who comes out on top.
Let's go.
So one team wants to actually play the first 25 minutes. The other team just wants to sit AFK for about 25 minutes and then finally enter the rift.
Oh, yes, but we really have to caution. So many people are like, yes, just the farm for late. It's so crucial how much you're actually giving up, because we've seen so many failures in the late game, giving up way too much early here, even if you are relying on farming until later. Bio, though, has been picked up for first blood before, and Braum is definitely a champion that helps in doing it.
With adaptation, not staying in the brush like last time.
Don't be that close to the cliff.
Yeah, just step further back. You will see them anyway, and then you run away. It is just fine. Ponza got his ward on the red buff as well, so just a little bit of information being traded.
Yeah, it looks to be about even, though. G2 maybe 1 extra ward in the TSM jungle. In fact, see what they do with that information, because of course Svenska on the Ivern, you can definitely have some shenanigans in those early game partners.
Looks like Nuno is starting here in the enemy red side jungle. They're all spotted on a ward.
Start is really crucial for these as well. Ivern is easier to counter jungle.
Place the ward. So they actually like this from TSM. They're like, we don't know where you are, and you have information of us, so we're not going to risk it. We're just going to step away.
This is actually a poor start here for TSM. All you have to do is auto-attack Ivern, try and interrupt here. Nunu should be able to win out on this start.
Yeah, I think Sven could have gone and just started on his blue side right now.
Bottom lane is going up there to actually help him get the channel off, just to even begin the jungle process.
All right, red buff is secured there by Svenska, and looking at the lane assignments, Sven and Mithy going to jump into this bottom lane. So a lot of shenanigans by G2. Doesn't feel like it netted a lot, though.
Well, we have to remember that G2 was also setting up for a potential trap when someone were stepping in to obviously activate these jungle camps, and that was avoided by TSM actually just stepping away and not risking anything.
Now with Nunu, you always do have to worry about him going back to your pre-channeled camps to then counter jungle you. He can take care of them very quickly. It looks like G2 got cold feet though, and I think we'll just go for the safer route. Svenska, meanwhile, is actually going for the red-to-red.
No smite yet from him. And channel obviously on the red buff, and smite will be ready in about 20 seconds time.
A lot of time to clear this out. The energy in the stadium here in Jeunesse in Rio is electric. The Brazilians are getting behind this matchup between EU and NA.
Basically, what Sven did right here was he prepped a red buff in case Trick invaded into his own red buff jungle, and we're farming there, so Sven could go back and take a red.
He has to go back, though, before the Nunu gets there to see it. It looks like it's already finished channeling. All that he has to do now is be able to click on it.
One out can get into range. Svenskaren's going to be running up. Takes a couple of trades from Trick. Manages to secure it.
But now it's about the laners roaming in.
Trick is taking a lot of damage.
Both of the side lanes here, well, the solo lanes for TSM are pushing in, so they have the priority to allow Sven to do this.
The hammer goes down, Bjergsen to the side, knocks Perks backwards. Team Solo Mid are looking for first blood. Perks 100 HP, continues to run for his life, but he's running into TSM bottom lane.
Bottom lane is pushing as well. Perks is going to go for the execute. Maybe he can find himself a little bit of fog of war to hide into.
Yeah, there's not a lot of mana here, and Bjergsen, another blast clone going to be taken by Perks. Obviously can't use the base gate. He's recalling.
He doesn't go for the full execute. Will Bjergsen actually go up?
I think he will. He's found him. Bjergsen finds Perks and secures first blood.
And right here, you see some of the problems for G2 eSports. Communication between Trick and the laners. Iron is spotted in the jungle, north of where Perks is standing, and yet Perks is actually still staying right in the middle of the lane, and not just flashing early when Bjergsen goes all in.
Meanwhile, in the aftermath, usually if you make that long of a chase this early in the game, you'll lose out on minions. However, Nunu is not very good at taxing lanes, and it's not beneficial at all to G2 there, so that definitely a big start here for TSM.
That is the least action-packed replay ever. Around the corner, kill that guy. So we have this problem now for G2 where they play scaling. They just gave up first blood to the Jace, not respecting the fact that Iron could just walk in behind Perks here. Because what you can do is as soon as Bjergsen jumps all in and he flashes, you can flash yourself and you're fine.
Exactly. No respect there for the gank setup of Jace. And Bjergsen, with the exhaust, is easily able to get in place there.
Typically when TSM has been getting early advantages, they've actually been able to kind of play out the mid game pretty well and keep kind of extending that advantage and get quite a big goal lead.
And remember, from Champion Select, this is the pace of the game that TSM are looking for.
And of course, TSM's team composition is going to be terrifying in the next 5 to 10 minutes once Hornser and Bjergsen.
This vote here was actually 50-50, and then people saw the Nunu lock in and just went like, favor TSM.
We'll have to see who can hold this one out. 1-0 in favor of TSM. Teleport used by Expect up into the top lane, getting closer to unlocking that ultimate. A couple of control wards picked up, and just an early start. Sven's going to use the 90 caliber backwards, takes a lot of damage from Bio though.
Yeah, and the pace of this game could get out of hand very quickly, so we should prep before things really start to light up here. The Haunter level 6 on Rumble brings so much threat. We already talked about this bottom lane as well, trying to constantly push here for Biofrost and Turtle. Iron's one of the best at going and accentuating pushing lanes like that.
It is extremely good for G2 though that Cloud Drake is the first Drake alive here, so there might not be an early fight around it to kind of set up Haunter as well, and even losing that first Cloud Drake will not do a whole lot for the game right now, so that is at least a positive that obviously they couldn't prep for, but happened.
Definitely true.
RNG a little bit in your favor. You're going to have some luck at times. As we see Perks continuing to apply pressure on the Bjergsen. Perks' Orianna earlier today was fantastic, establishing a lane kingdom, a fairly favorable matchup early on at least against Faker's Ari. This time around though, Bjergsen having absolutely none of it. The shock blast goes just a little wide. Bjergsen continuing to stay even with Perks at this stage of the game.
We sometimes see Jace get picked into Syndra where you didn't rush the Hexdrinker. You don't need to do that against Orianna. You're not under as much threat in terms of her all-in. So you can go straight towards that serrated Dirk, which is a much bigger power spike for you early on.
And even looking at where the assist for that early goal went as well for Svenskeren. He's gone for the stacking ring here. We get a little bit of a trade. All right, he's gone for the stacking ring. This is a little bit of money that will delay your support items, but AP on Ivern early actually is tremendously valuable for, beefing up the shield.
And of course, it just fits into the whole team comp for Team Solo Mid. A little bit of an earlier spike. Expect throws the body slam forward, gets roasted by Haunter's overheating Flame Spitter, and Trick continues to jungle. About to get access to that absolute zero. Svenskeren is interrupted by an Ice Blast, and Both supports were in the river. If you look, Bifrost and Miffy doing a little bit of a dance.
Yep, good reaction there from Trick. First thing you want to do is tag Ivern to stop the channel. If it completes, your buff is gone.
Well, he's sitting there now trying again, and he gets to complete it. So Trick needs to give this up again because it's the solo laners roaming from TSM. Bjergsen moving in. Perkz, who's behind, has to just sit on the tower.
Exactly. I mean, First Blood getting out to the early serrated dirt, extra mana regeneration for Bjergsen, easily able to allow the extra support here for the invade. TSM snowballing fairly well.
Now, people might wonder, why would G2, run this Nunu super defensive comp again? Well, last time these guys played each other, G2 fell behind, as we said earlier, like the 10, 11k gold. And yet they actually managed to sneak a Baron, win a fight, get back in the game, and it ended at that Nexus race where Nexus almost died. Let's see what happens bot lane though.
Oh, Wild Turtle is going forward, flashes in for the Chain of Corruption. Equalizers burning down Stone, but there's not a lot to follow up. Miffy and managed to tag off Hornsel with that Winter Fight.
Big health chunk though, they should be able to take down this turret, and then the decision becomes, do they still have enough priority to be able to take the Drake as well on top of it? They have forced the Caitlyn's back, but Sven should be back out on the field.
Well, I want to see if Hornsel can make his way back top lane instead of going for that Drake and see if he can actually defend tower. Seems like that is the case. That means now you get a tower in favor of TSM, nothing in favor of G2. And once again, G2 falling behind.
Trick is circling around, and Nunu plus Braum has a lot of chase potential.
No flash on Wild Turtle. He used it just before.
No damage from G2, so there's no follow-up. First blood to TSM. First tower blood to TSM. It's nearly 2,000 gold before 10 minutes. And remember, TSM's comp hits a much earlier timing on when they can look to fight and force G2's hands.
That play was just set up by so many different things. There were top lane advantage, Bjergsen roaming first.
And the timing you're talking about hitting is actually right now. TSM is in it. They've used the first equalizer there to try and gain some ground. G2 will strike back and actually get that Cloud Drake, the Fishu that you were talking about.
Small win again for them will not help them in terms of gold. And what you really want with the scaling composition is gold to complete 1 item, 2 items, 3 items. And then you really start shining. Even Infernal Drakes are not as valuable early on as just getting pure gold. But there's at least something, right? You get what you can.
Yeah, you can indeed. Trick's going to secure off that Cloud Drake. And talking about completed items, Ghost Blade in the mid lane for Bjergsen. Wild Turtle has already got his Blade of the Ruined King. And he's just going up against components now for G2. So, G2, stop the hemorrhaging, play the wave clear game, play for 50 minutes. And hopefully don't put yourself in a scenario where you need to backdoor a Nexus to win the game. That's what G2 are looking forward to.
Exactly. G2, luckily for them, their farming is actually going okay right now. Yes, the big losses on the first objectives of the first kill as well as the first turret are hurting them. But as long as the CS numbers stay okay, they still retain hope.
That's going to be tough though now for Perkz in mid, because Wild Turtle can push out this bot lane and then he can actually go towards the mid lane with the Jace, group up against Perkz, force him onto his tower, then either hit the tower or go towards top lane and pressure that one. And then suddenly TSM might sit with 3 outer turrets down at 15, 16 minutes. That's something that's happened against G2 eSports multiple times this tournament. They lose the first tower, and quickly the next ones follow, and they don't get anything in return.
And that could be so problematic for G2, a team that has really struggled to find consistent form. Team Solo Mid, on the other hand, on an upswing. They have been getting progressively better day for day, and especially with that huge win earlier.
This move is actually very risky by TSM. They're swapping into a lane where there's some wave clear by Gragas and TP, and they're sending Haunter alone to the bottom lane. This is actually allowing G2 to maybe make a play on the bottom side.
Bjergsen looking for a little bit of a trade here onto Bjergsen. Shockwave into the turret though.
A lot of damage back and forth. Perkz and Bjergsen trading evenly down in the bottom. Trick is able to zone away Haunter from the tower, and G2 are getting a lot of damage.
Yeah, Haunter plays it defensively appropriately here. With the Daisy up on the top side, this turret should be trivial for TSM to finish.
G2 are trying to keep Haunter out of ulti range, so he can't actually use the equalizer on the minion. That's why they're forcing him so far back. TSM though will trade for tower, but G2 will get a tower in the bottom lane, so it's not going to be the 3 for 0 we've seen so often.
Well, advantage North America. They get the tower before G2, and that means they can continue running down the top lane. Explosive cast used by Expect, and the damage is being chipped away at.
If they can get this tower, yes, then it's definitely an advantage. Expect needs to flash.
All right, already has, so that's an advantage. Wild Turtle takes a couple of tower shots, manages to get the trigger shield sealed. Well, shield, rather. Svenskeren and Wild Turtle back away. The tower survives to live another day.
Yeah, TSM should be able to retreat after that, though, even though they didn't take quite a large amount of damage from the turret. Hansa should be able to push on this bottom side, and TSM continue to keep the pressure.
So it's good that they keep the pressure. G2 Esports, though, with that play on the bottom side getting a tower, then we have to remember it was a trade, 1-for-1. One team is running the more early to mid-game comp that wants to really snowball. So G2 actually getting a tower is at least something for them right now. But obviously the problem is TSM only has that mid tower left, and if they can start grouping with the Jace, then it's hard to defend.
Right, the big problem becomes after the last outer turret goes down, that's when the flood of wards come in, the vision comes in, and you start to be starved of your income on your side of the map. G2 right now, though, making an offensive move up here into the blue quadrant.
All right, 3 members, Heavy up in the top lane, Biofrost making his way up to help out Hansa. And as it stands, G2 now deciding to reassign, at least thinking about it, looking at the minimap. Sven, Trick, Mithy, they keep running up and down that top half of the map.
Due to TSM aiming for that second tower, they obviously got to recall a bit later. G2 got back to their lane, push it out. So they're actually now forcing TSM to defend, which is good from Sven and Mithy. But it will only last for a few seconds, and then we go back to TSM having pressure.
Exactly. At the moment, every move that the G2 can make offensively to make TSM break up and not go for that mid turret, every moment they can delay TSM taking down the mid turret saves them some income.
All right, Expect has managed to find out Svenskeren. Svenskeren uses the Root Caller, flashes away from the shockwave. Daisy buying some time, but that's at least a summoner spell for the ultimate.
And it's another offensive move that are now forcing TSM to play a bit more passive, as Kobe just highlighted right now. And it's a small little thing of just trying to buy a bit more time, but now they gotta be careful.
Oh, gotta be very careful. Biofrost gets caught by the barrel roll. He's already flashed. Stranglethorns will buy some time, and so will Daisy. Everybody's knocked into the air. G2 Esports into try.
He ate Daisy counter.
Sudden Team Solo mid are able to reply. That ultimate from Biofrost for just enough time. Man, you can cut the tension in the air with the knife. It's 15 minutes into the game. 1,500 gold still in favor of the early game team that is made. Early game plays. Team Solo mid still maintaining a lead.
And remember, G2's last offensive move was into the blue quadrant, so they did leave behind a couple of scattered wards. And if there was going to be a play to be made, it would be in that area. Turtle currently is by himself up in that top area. Anything, though, that deep is a little bit too much. Because we're talking about making offensive moves to delay the pressure on mid-turret. If you overcommit like that in TSM territory, that's where the big opening does come from.
Yeah, you don't really want to fight around, where Bjergsen is if you're G2 Esports. Because then you fight against the strongest member right now. This Jace here with farming so extremely well on the lane. So if they can actually just try and fight around him, that's good. But obviously Bjergsen, the mid, can move first, and he will be able to join a potential skirmish on the side.
Those skirmishes on the side going to get more interesting as Redemption is completed for Svenskeren.
And Drake coming up in 10 seconds would be a natural lure to some sort of confrontation here, but it doesn't look like G2 are even positioning themselves for any sort of confrontation, as they've sent their bottom lane up to the top side. So TSM will be able to get the extra regeneration.
And there's way too few control wards from G2 right now. Look at the defensive vision from TSM compared to G2 with the red wards on the minimap. They also just gone back and they didn't actually get anything other than Mithy and 1 ward from Expect.
And I have to say, this is a very good Drake for a team that has so much siege. If Varus Qs, the Jace Qs, and the Zyra poke are all continuously going out under the turret, then they can just back up and regenerate after the siege. So that's not terrible. Even though you would love, Infernals for extra damage, Ocean is not too shabby.
All right. Now, there are 2 plays here for TSM. One is that you use Wild Turtle and his support to push out a side lane, invade the enemy jungle for vision near that lane you just pushed, and then see if you can threaten Perks in mid to get some damage on the tower. The other option is you take Bjergsen and put him on the side lane because he's the strongest player right now in the game, and use his one-on-one pressure to just kind of push in that lane and see if maybe you can then use him to roam around the map.
And I think there still is the possibility of bringing to brunt all of TSM's offensive tools that are just hitting their peaks now. This is a level 11 Rumble that's just itching to use Equalizer. If they could converge on the mid lane and pry the map open that way, that would be a very big victory for them. A lot of defensive vision for G2 though, trying to see it coming.
They went with option number 1 on the side of TSM. They used the AD carry support to push out the top lane. They're going mid now for the poke.
Gigantic shock blast, tags Perks. That means he's forced to back away. Shockwave to try and clear out the way. Wild Turtle is tagged up, takes a lot of damage, and Daisy's chunked down. Dashes away from the chain of corruption, but the tower loses 50% HP.
And you can keep doing this if you're TSM. You got plenty of time still where you have some insanely strong poke. Wild Turtle back to the top lane, push it out again, past the river. Then you can move down the river where you have your defensive vision, and you can get to that mid lane before G2. Because remember, someone from G2 has to always stay in the side lane and kill that wave. You just push towards them.
As it stands, we're getting closer to 20 minutes. The lead still in favor of Team Solo Mid. Trick has been power farming like a monster. Still even on gold with Svenskeren despite being a tower behind and an assist behind. And there are some first items being completed for G2 already. Nomicon in the mid lane, Spirit Visage, and look at this pressure here mid.
TSM should continue pressuring.
Ben cannot afford to get caught like that. He's burning down, stays alive, but Mithy does not. Biofrost takes him down.
I'm pretty sure Svenskeren just landed a trigger seed from over the wall that kept him in place, and he's dead now though.
While Svenskeren gets bounced backwards, the tower shot takes him down with the help of a love tap by Perks. The tower falls in favor of TSM.
Yeah, and this is still a fine trade for TSM because they get the tower. That's the important one. That trigger seed though from Svenskeren kept Sven in place, I think, on the equalizer.
Have to be very careful about giving extra kills over when they go for these objectives though. TSM, they had so much of an advantage. It cost them very much to actually knock that one down. Here's another look at the equalizer on Sven, and it was Biofrost who was able to keep him there.
It was his root, and then his Trick who got hit by that.
Meanwhile, Sven actually going the super dangerous route around here, and he gets heavily punished.
That was a good combo by Expect though. He actually threw out the ulti and then body slammed, so he stunned Svenskeren while his ulti was already in the air. That's why Svenskeren couldn't flash out in time.
And I'm going to go back to something that the gentleman mentioned in Picks and Bans, that Sven needs to be on point. He cannot afford to get caught by CC, cannot afford to be locked down. And he ate that grasping roots from Biofrost, which allowed TSM to just knock over the tower.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back to pick bans. I mean, G2, part of their pick ban strategy is to rely on TSM mistakes in this mid game. This is where they're looking for them. This is where G2 are looking for the extra farm and the extra couple kills that they're able to snag away as TSM take these objectives.
We need to see G2 get rid of some of those Thorn's rings right now. Like, you need to just stack control wards because TSM are gonna push the lane, take over your jungle, and if you can't deny some of that vision back, then you're gonna just play TSM's game.
Plus, TSM coming up on some more spikes here. Svenskeren Redemption had already been completed. As soon as you combine that with Locket, it just becomes a very overwhelming team fight force. And the grouping from TSM would really be hard to deal with for G2.
Well, G2 going to have to find an answer. It's a reminder, Team Solo Mid continue this trajectory and close out the game. It will secure that 3rd seed in the playoffs. G2, on the other hand, win here keeps their hopes alive. However, it will set them up for some tiebreaker scenarios, and then we need to refer to the rulebook and the records to see how far G2 can go.
We're gonna see that play, you know, invade into the jungle from TSM, get vision. Baron is your objective, not really tier 2 towers at this point. You just want to force G2 to play without any vision.
Exactly, that's step 2 part of the process that we talked about when focusing the mid lane, then going into the jungle, and they're doing it here. Little bit of a move to clear out some of the defensive wards that G2 have set up for their secondary turrets.
You don't have any control wards in return as G2. Those wards from TSM are going to stay in there.
There is a control ward for G2. One lone control ward in the tri-bush behind TSM, but they've swapped over to mid lane.
All right, another shockwave to try to clear out the wave. This time Chain of Corruption catches Trick. Mithy says, stand behind me, brother. He manages to block some of the damage. Team Solo Mid still not relenting on this mid lane.
I like this play though, just to get some damage on that mid tower from TSM. They know they can't just burst it down, but at least poke it, because they don't want to right now allow G2 to just sit, you know, and clear out their wards and scale. Expect getting caught.
He has indeed. Stranglethorn's flashed away from. There's no follow-up damage just yet. Sven Skeren is looking for a root caller potentially, but decided not to pull the trigger.
Good snare landing, not letting Expect get any closer. A little bit more, you know, favorable RNG for G2 as the next Drake is a Cloud Drake.
Sir. And obviously Clouds get really annoying if you get multiple ones, but because G2 actually picked up the first, giving one over to TSM does not matter at all.
There is a sense of beautiful irony that in NA versus EU we've had 2 Cloud Drakes in an ocean so far, both of them being split.
Exactly. I mean, obviously TSM would love for even a Mountain or an Inferno, but they'll happily take this one for a quicker respawn of the next. G2 taking this opportunity to go in and take come of the Baron Vision away.
Just because I know it excites Deficio, the next dragon is Infernal. A spicy dragon as we get closer to the mid game, and some of these potential team fights as we get closer, 25, 30 minutes in.
And the team fights, when we're leading up to these team fights, you have to account for all flashes. Remember the importance that we talked about for Expect and the Gragas ultimate? We've seen it a couple times here where Turtle got picked off with it, Sven Skeren got picked off with it. Those are the kills here and the extra advantage that G2 have been getting. If the flashes are ready for those players, then they will be able to flash.
Okay, so G2 picked a scaling comp. We're almost 25 minutes in. There's 2 items completed on actually nearly everybody here.
Yep.
And it's only a 2,000 gold lead. Chain of Corruption flashed away from. Respect there from Flash, but it means it's down for the next fight. Is this where G2 starts to become scarier?
I mean, 100%. You have 2 items completed and you're not too far down in gold, but there's still time for TSM to set up around Baron and maybe catch Trick.
Wow, Trick has been caught out. Absolute Zero begins to be channeled. Smithy has got one direction to fire that Glacial Fissure. He holds onto the trigger for now.
Good job by TSM actually drawing out the cooldown and then disengaging right afterwards. Shockwave doesn't hit any members, but does clear out some minions.
2 ultimates not available for G2.
And Hanser the whole time is pushing up on the bottom side. They can swap over very quickly.
Yeah, this is a really good move over because Expect wants to go down and try and kill the wave, but TSM just says, you know, this is our jungler, you have to take the long route around. Now G2 is trying to defend.
Remember that Sven's flash is down on Caitlyn, and TSM should be focusing above Bio.
Frost gets bounced under the tower. Stranglethorns will buy a lot of time, and the Equalizer cuts off the retreat path. Mithy and Trigger down! Double kill for Bjergsen! North America erupts in elation as Team Solo Mate get the 2.
Yeah, G2 eSports had no reason to actually engage. They just want to kill the wave and wait. But they went in for the aggressive play, set up the fight, allowed TSM now to pick up some kills and probably the tower.
There'll be a lot of damage onto Biofrost. Sven is doing his absolute utmost. Expect is looking for a body slam target, but he will not find it. The tower stands, but Bjergsen 3-0-1 on that Jace.
So all 3 tier 2 towers now have been taking quite some damage, down near the 50% mark. No advantage for TSM yet because of those, but again, one little mistake, then a good rotation from TSM, and they can take 2 towers easily and just get a much bigger goal lead.
Exactly. TSM should have no problem getting all 3 lanes pushing in their favor and then be the ones to make the first move. We did see Biofrost the target of that last ultimate from Expect for the Gragas, so he is the only one with that flash down that they would want to punish in the next team fight, and he's not actually the crucial one. Even if he gets knocked in, he gets his ult off. We'll take a look at it here.
Do engage in, Sven is not even close. He's the man you're bumping up with your comp, and Perks use Shockwave in mid. So I really think this engage is just not very smart. I'd much rather see the Gragas ulti used to just kill the minions and stop TSM from pushing in and wait for your AD carry, wait for your cooldowns. 2 kills right now to Bjergsen.
And where was the counter on Daisy there, Deficio? Daisy got the key knockup to keep them on the equalizer and in place for the shock blast. MVP.
We agree, Kobe. We agree.
Daisy Iron.
MVP Daisy. Sven Skeren doing some work. 0-1-3. He's got that locket completed redemption as well. 2 stacks on that Dark Seal. We'll get a little bit more AP as the game continues to scale. And TSM, they just extend this lead. They extend their control, and they maintain vision superiority.
Trying to see if the gang Expect. He already left, though. His tower is very low. Right now, TSM set up their vision around Baron. That is a very good objective for them to try and force around. They can use Daisy, of course, as well near it, but these towers here are still looking so juicy, and they're so low. TSM just wants to go in and finish them.
So Fisher, you talked about vision. I only see 2 control wards in G2's inventory. This tower in the bottom lane will get taken down while Turtle finishes it off with an extra auto. A couple of Doran's rings and some small, very cheap items from G2, but not investing in vision. They're hemorrhaging gold, they're hemorrhaging the lead at 5,000 down. TSM may get another uncontested tower if this minion wave makes it here quick enough.
Yeah, these were the small rotations we talked about. G2 had to go into the river to try and get some wards back, or at least kill some control wards. They actually missed the one at Baron. While Turtle not hitting that one.
Spect is moving very forward, looking for a potential body slam flash or ulti engage. Got that available to him, and G2, they shove that mid lane back.
Have to really watch out for the snares. If G2 are going to make a big move like that, you know, either the Zyra or the Ivern can set up a very big equalizer. There's a lot of damage on TSM that could come through to anyone who does get caught by that. All eyes are on the Kragus ultimate, though.
TSM just reset. Zyra went back to base for more wards. G2 actually pushing up, feeling a bit confident. No flash on Sven, so they have to respect that. Still just want to wait, because there's like 2,400 gold right now on Caitlyn. And while we're looking at different members now, it's definitely Sven we're looking at in the late game. TSM really wants to get a Baron, preferably before 30 minutes, and use that to get a big advantage.
A lot of unspent gold on both sides of the rift. Perkz is burned alive by the equalizer. He manages to coast to safety, though. Team Solo mid push G2 back into their quadrant.
Yeah, I think what you have to do here is push an extra wave and then retreat into the Infernal Drake, because the Infernal Drake is actually a very big prize.
Especially at this stage in the game. Basically everyone on TSM is going to benefit from that AD and AP. Team Solo mid should be able to pick this one up uncontested. Look at the minimap. G2, they're going to spin, they're going to shop. They're resetting. This is just like the first round.
It is.
All over again.
Except TSM had like a 10,000 gold lead at this point.
This
the game should be over.
Improvement for G2.
Yeah. Small ones. Congratulations. You're only down like, what, 4K right now. Luckily, though, for them, as Kobe highlighted earlier, it's only one Infernal Drake. That's it. Next Drake is Elder Drake. So they're fine sacrificing these Drakes right now. 4 more items on Sven.
And that's Elder Drake just after 35 minutes as he's going to proc. So it's 30 minutes into the game. Team Solo mid, they got the bottom in at G2.
Ooh, they're rushing
Baron.
They're definitely rushing for it. Redemption comes in, but G2 should be able to power it.
Look at the mini-map. Team Solo mid are nowhere around. They did this earlier against Flash Wolves. Baron is secured. It's consumed and smited down. Everyone, 1, 2, flash away. Shockwave goes down. Perkz follows after. Equalizer from Hornster is a few seconds away. Team Solo mid looking to continue this fight.
TSM wants the mid tower. Good ulti here from Hornster to zone G2 away. Small prize though, but they want something at least.
Exactly, that was such a huge, huge move from G2.
All right, Trick is trying to defend the tower. Gets a good channel on
Also
Absolute
taking the
Zero,
tower.
but it doesn't do a lot. A lot of damage onto Hornster. Chain of Corruption starts to spread. Expect uses the ultimate defensively. Europe get Baron. North America get a tower.
TSM gave up one of these very big mid-game Barons versus their game with Flash Wolves as well. And Flash Wolves got a 5,500 Baron power play off of that.
That's what G2 are going to need to just even out this goal difference. Quickly taking a look, it is a Rage Blade third item there for Wild Turtle. Void Star picked up for Hornster after Leandri's and Hourglass. He's going all in on the deeps.
I like the Rage Blade here because you're not really going to be under threat if you're a Wild Turtle, and it's very good against these tank comps where you get a ton of auto attacks off.
The other thing about getting this Baron here, there's so many turrets left standing because G2 have been farming on defense for so long. It has the potential to have one of those very big, Baron power plays that we saw before.
It's crazy that TSM 2 games in a row will make this mistake where they all recall. They're so far away from Baron with 5 members alive in the late game.
Especially when you consider their 15 to 20 minutes of vision control leading up to it. It had been flawless for the entirety of this game. And one simple misstep allows G2 back in. All right, G2 took down the top outer turret, and they've enabled ARAM mode. Gonna start grouping up around the mid lane. Now they want to take down the mid outer turret from TSM.
Sven is once again now on 1,500 gold. Like, this guy just keeps getting more and more farm. Bloodboy will be there for him as well. At this point, TSM can still definitely win fights, but they're respecting G2 and they're giving up another tower now.
G2 take the third tower of the game. They're not done with the siege. A minute and a half.
This is risky though. There's again a lot of gold on the carries of G2. They don't actually see Hanzo. They're going in.
Chain of corruption starting to spread, and the shockwave whips. It finds nobody. Sven is being burned alive as Hanzo goes golden next to the hourglass. 1, 2 members of G2 under pressure. Sven has got a lot of damage which he's putting down as the Hanzo. It is just Trick that goes down.
Huge engage over the wall from TSM, and they've got them on the run, though. Bjergsen still chasing Sven. Extra speed from Perks, they should be able to retreat.
Yes, Dissonance can help them out. All right, G2 maybe a little lucky to get away with just a single man down. Daisy body block, the body slam. And G2 eSports are now on the defensive.
You just see that fight again where the equalizer came down from Hanzo because he didn't actually get to hit Sven. Hanzo then flashed over the wall as well to try and take the one-on-one fight. Had to then hourglass. But now they're pushing up without that jungler again. G2 are feeling very confident, maybe too confident.
Except that they don't want to have to rely on cooldowns. They've got the auto attacker here, and all of these big ultimates and the Zhonyas you mentioned are very key cooldowns from TSM. That's the reason G2 are trying to get more out of this.
They're still sitting with 2,000 gold on the 80 carry in the protect the 80 carry comp. I think they wisely now step away. Reset once again. They have not lost an inhibitor. No turrets really going down in the base. So they don't actually see Hanzo or Bifrost. Nice ulti from Wild Turtle. Hanzo's equalizer comes in. Only really taxed onto Mithy at first. And then Sven is okay.
Huge disengage there as well. TSM, as we said, used a lot to get that one off. You can see the damage charge as well. Turtle is coming through from that back line in addition to landing his ultimate to get this one all started off.
G2 eSports now. Baron has worn off. And taking a look at some of those items. Bloodthirster completed, by the way. Knight's Vow has been to expect for a little while. Leandry's also for Bifrost. And the Ardent Sensor for Svenskeren. So TSM are super heavily committed to this damage glass cannon style.
And of course, when we have Europe versus North America. You know, last day of the MSI group stage, G2 eSports will drop out of the tournament if they lose. We get this nail biter now, 34 minutes in, very even in gold. And one mistake from either team can just lose the entire thing.
An Elder Dragon coming up, G2 with the first position in the river. TSM should move in shortly, but there's no way you can clean out Scuttle Crab, and a good move there by G2 to buy themselves a little bit of time.
Now looking at the vision, TSM still with some deep wards inside G2 side of the map, and summoner spells, no flash for Sven. Perks will be available by the time the fight ensues.
And even though there is no flash on Sven, and you have to have your eyes, Haunter's equalizer going directly for Sven, you cannot forget about the Orianna ball. Shockwaves this late in the game can change it.
Oh, Trick already channeled. Insta-cancel on the Absolute Zero.
Turtle's in though.
Pulled into the wall. While Turtles get tagged, a lot of damage. Mithy's being burnt down and killed. G2 in a 4v5. Make that a 3v5. Expect is burned alive. Elders for TSM.
Yeah, TSM just got absolutely everything. Trick ran in, did absolutely nothing but waste his ulti. Perks' shockwave didn't do a whole lot either. While we saw Wild Turtle in the middle of the fight, he flashed out. All G2 get in return now is a tower. Big advantage for TSM. And Baron is spawning in 1 minute 20 seconds. They still have the Elder Drake buff when that Baron is alive.
Definitely going to be crucial as they have 3 Elemental Drakes to themselves from the early game. Got to think about grabbing that Scuttle Crab as well before retreating. Baron only a minute away, as you said.
And that kind of play right there, again, been the reason G2 have lost quite a lot of games. Because when they finally get to late game and they can start playing team fights, they're so far down that if they make one of those mistakes, they lose so much. They just did it right here. Trick just running in, wasting everything, and then him and Mithy going down.
Exactly.
Gone.
Even though G2 have such a beefy front line with all those 3 members, as you said, Trevor, TSM have so many DPS. If there is no space for Sven to get off his auto attacks, there's no counter damage coming through, then all the tanking here doesn't mean anything. Trick loses a lot of zoning power very early on.
And G2 then says, you know what, we can still try and fight it. While they hit Wild Turtle, they can't actually follow up.
And Sven only got maybe 3 auto attacks off in that team fight. If your AD carry with the Blood Boil can only get off 3, that is not going to be the way to take a victory.
And now G2 needs to respect Elder Drake buff, so they step back. They give the river over to TSM. This now means G2 will have to blindly face check to stop a Baron.
And crucially, for this next team fight that will make or break it, both Perkz and Sven will have double summoners up. These are the two for G2 that you have to focus.
That's where TSM are going to set their sights. I'm looking at the vision. They can toggle. G2 need to move into the jungle blind. Luckily for them, they can still see TSM, Wild Turtle on top of a ward.
Remember this Rageblade Varus here. He's a threat when it comes to two-manning Baron as well. In case G2 don't actually see more than just a few guys, they should expect Baron to have then been started. Ivan as well can start it up. That's what TSM have been doing right now. It's Bjergsen instead of Wild Turtle though.
Daisy tanking right now. Bjergsen trying to do the damage, but that ward should dissuade them from committing.
Daisy gets chunked down real low. 400 hit points for a potential fight to ensue. All summoners, except for Trick Splash, available on the G2 side. Wild Turtle, no flash available. Cannot afford to pull a Wild Turtle and get caught out by G2.
Also, though, you have to worry about G2 have to funnel through this jungle corridor. That's perfect space for an equalizer. And just the equalizer from Hanser, it should be aimed at getting those summoners off of Perkz and off of Sven.
Look at the minimap. G2 are happy to play the waiting game. Bottom is pushing heavily towards TSM. There's no vision in the pit. Just toggled on full vision. You can see Baron's been started.
So they start the Baron right now. G2 eSports fighting in the jungle. They have a trap over. They know the Baron is activated. That's good ulti.
Chain of corruption onto Mithy and expect Glacial Fisher's not really going to do a lot. Mithy stays alive for a few seconds longer. Equalizer not been fired yet by Haunter.
That's a large health advantage as two of G2's tanks have been chunked out very heavily. Small advantage there for TSM now, looking to capitalize on top of it.
Trick also has no flash to get over the wall. Perkz does. So there needs to be a magic shot through. Teleport coming in from Expect.
Oh, here goes 3,000 health on that Baron.
Oh, this is so scary. Shockwave and piercing arrow flying across G2. Sven with some vision. He's tagging Baron. 2,500 hit points. Built of a Peacemaker goes out. Watch the HP. Secured by Team Solo Mid. Expect forced to retreat.
Shockwave was also used to attempt to steal it there, so it won't be there if they decide to pressure. That's not going to be the case, though. Big wave down bottom. This is a very crucial Baron buff for TSM to see if they can actually get inside the inhibitor turret line.
Just a few seconds on the flash from Trick here. Didn't get up in time. I think TSM did have the timing, but again, we're respecting the damage from Perkz. Timed with maybe an ulti from Gragas. Like at this point, after you already lost one to a Syndra last game, you don't want to risk someone else stealing that Baron.
Exactly. A Shockwave plus a Dissonance can do more than 1,000 damage, more than the Smite could do at this stage in the game with 4 items on that Orianna.
And now we're looking at that big moment for TSM to say, okay, yes, we have gone late game, but we secured Elder. That's gone now, though. We got Baron buff this time around. We need to get in that base and get an inhibitor down on 2 so we can keep that pressure going, because right now, Sven just completed his 4th item. Like, we are hitting full late game very soon.
And no room for error for Team Solo Mid.
Or G2.
Or break. Team Solo Mid on the verge of securing the 3rd seed. If they can use this Baron buff to break open the base and set themselves up to knock over the Nexus. It's 40 minutes into game time. It is a 7,000 gold lead. And only 1 death on the side of Team Solo Mid. They have maintained control for the majority of the game, even thwarted off the Baron buff from G2, which simply evened out the mid stages. TSM, 2 very, very good games on the last day of groups here in Rio.
All right, secondary turret, not a large objective. TSM will power through that, and then we get to the real test very soon here. Keep your eyes on the summoner spells, and crucial ultimates are available. Everybody has all tools that they will need for this team fight. It comes down to execution in the high pressure situation.
All right, G2 in the mid lane. Their chosen lane is TSM. Switcheroo around. They shoved in top, now they shoved in bottom. We keep talking about vision. Vision has been a crucial topic all game long. G2 have had a control ward in the bottom lane for what feels like 20 or 25 minutes. I only point that out because it means no one's replaced it or used it in a more effective location.
I mean, Perkz right now is sitting with the Doran's ring still 41 minutes into the game instead of getting vision. Haunter, the greedy path here, needs to flash. Could be huge for a fight. Top lane pushing in though.
All right, Wild Turtle steps forward, stands on a trap and takes an ice blast that does nothing to him. Trick is now moving forward. Here comes Expect. Glacial Fish has been thrown in. Chain of Corruption starting to spread. Sven remains untouched as the Redemptions come down and the tower stays alive.
This is how nervous both teams are about this crucial team fight. Not willing for a full commit there. Haunter was in the bottom lane, and TSM hold on to their teleport and just retreat.
Everyone is sitting at home right now, just watching this being like, oh my god, it is so close. You said earlier, Kobe, this is where the superstars really step up.
Clutch plays.
Sven is one of those superstars. Perks is another one. If we look at G2, Haunter, Bjergsen on the side of TSM.
Can G2 pull another miracle? They've done it a few times this tournament, bouncing back from behind. But today's TSM does not feel like the same team that has made the mistakes over the past 4 days. They have played clean and well the majority of this game, with the exception of those Baron vision falls.
And at this point, the goal lead doesn't really matter, because in terms of just effective items and composition and the scaling, it is just even right now. Because as you can see, barely anyone has actually fully completed all their items. They're just almost at that number 5.
I mean, Rylai's Crystal Scepter for Biofrost, Death Cap for Haunter's Rumble. Seems like a long time since I've seen that one. Team Solo Mid, they want to just explode G2, destroy Europe's hopes. And remember, G2, they started, they said it. Believe in us, give us a chance. We'll show up on the international stage. And they haven't really done it now in MSI in groups.
Meanwhile, for TSM, living a little bit even in the shadow of CLG for once in the team's history because of the accomplishments at MSI last year. They are the ones to make it here and looking to make North America proud.
Make NALCS great again. That's what TSM are looking to do. 4 wins, 5 losses. Will they end with a 5-0? All right, lane assignment set up. Haunter's in the bottom. Teleport is available to him. Baron has worn off. Over a minute and a half from Elder Drake. So TSM, not the most effective Baron, but it did strangle G2 into their base. They simply cannot leave yet.
Well, against TSM, they understand they can just go with Furious. Haunter, no flash!
Remember, he had no flash from the greedy pathing earlier. Equalizer comes down and Expect takes him down.
He doesn't get his Zhonya's off either to buy any sort of time, so this takes all of the wind out of TSM's sails at the moment. They have to wait for his resurrection to be able to use teleport.
It might actually not be the worst thing that he didn't use Hourglass, because he wanted to die quickly so he could respawn for Elder Drake. Because now he's actually alive at 40 seconds, Elder Drake is alive at 52 seconds.
And that is a death 4 minutes or 3 minutes in the making. One greedy pathing decision from Haunter costs a flash. Another greedy pathing decision costs his life, and now G2 are alleviating the pressure slightly, buying a little bit more time. This game is just balancing on a knife edge. One mistake from either team could cost it.
And the setup could be crucial here. Because you talk about the neutral objectives, those are what draw teams through the jungle corridors. If there is vision for G2 set up, they could, not funnel through a really bad equalizer for themselves. But the vision right now, actually still up for grabs.
And now we have to look at wards around it for teleport as well, Kobe. There's a ward just in the river that G2 can kill. There's one ward really far back in the base. That's obviously not really a good location for Haunter. But as a Rumble, you don't really want to flank TP anyway. Elder Drake being started. Same thing at this point. Just get it down.
All right, where is Haunter? He doesn't need to TP or make it in. Daisy comes down, Expect is the target. Absolute Zero is not channeled yet from Trick. He's stuck inside the pit, looking for that one. Redemption comes down to heal up Trick. The barrel splits up Wild Turtle for a few seconds longer, but the Elder seems to be the focus. He's down to 2,000. Who's going to pick it up? It's secured by G2. The Nunu, the Consume Spike combo. Now Wild Turtle is being burned alive. The long range auto attack from Sven as he's knocked into the air. Expect goes down. Mithy jumps in, throws out the Glacial Fisher. G2, the shockwave whips. Perks missed it. Team Solomid get the kill. G2 get the dragon.
Yep, nice combo there from Trick to be able to secure that Drake. Sven Skaren is down there, and there's no smite for TSM on the Baron attempt.
Well, they can't go for Baron then. They have to just wait and try and bait it. That's what they're doing right now. Trick is checking. A lot of things again. Missing left and right. There's so much action going on. The shockwave from Perks did not connect. And Expect, again, true. Expect felt so confident with the Elder Drake, he just rushed forward, actually got knocked off by the last part of the Zyra ulti, so he ended up dying in return as well.
I just want to really re-emphasize how important that secure on the Elder Dragon was for G2 though. Remember the triple elemental drakes for TSM in position to pressure that fight. They had already taken down the Guardian Angel.
And now tables turned. Last time it was TSM with the Elder Drake getting Baron. Now it's G2 with the Elder Drake who can actually then say, you know what? If you start that Baron, we will fight you with this buff, and then you shouldn't be able to win if you're on the side of TSM. But they're now trying to bait it again, because the wards from G2 are simply not in a place to actually spot what's happening in the river.
Control wards were picked up. Trick had 3 of them leading up to the Elder Dragon. He's used all of them. G2 still have to contest, go through some darkness as Haunter and Bjergsen use the acceleration gate to escape the mid lane. Trick gets tagged up, at least by the grasping roots for now, and Hail of Arrows comes down. TSM, they've lost positioning on the Baron, but they've got the Scuttle Crab, which is about to wear off.
A fully operational, full item Elder Dragon buff. Oh, it just times out now.
Hey, the frontline Caitlyn, that's what Sven's playing right now. Chasing Sven Skeren. One auto took around 5 or 600 hit points from him.
And here it goes. Neither team wants to go through these little corridors, but TSM have to go over traps now.
All right, Daisy.
Oh,
Look at Sven. He's been bursted down on the attack in the distance. Baron is helping out TSM. So is the Equalizer. Daisy seems to be the focus. G2 wants their cupcakes. Consume and Smite is available. Needs to be taken down. The Baron is the focus and Trick.
Oh my God. How did he
do it by Expect?
It regenerated. TSM now pushing up the mid wave while the Baron-empowered recalls are channeled for G2.
Deficio almost had a heart attack as Elder Dragon wears off. G2 secure another Baron. It's 50 minutes in.
Yeah, it's just because Trick actually did use his Smite, so Baron ended on 100 HP, and he was not under pressure. That was one of those moments where you're going to cost your team almost everything, but with full late game.
Terrible now. Late game for 15 minutes.
Well, now we're actually full late game because there are full items on Sven and Perks.
I'm not full yet.
You want more, Kobe?
Are you not entertained? TSM now have to fend off G2, who will take their 5th tower of the game. 2.5 minutes on Baron. And TSM, they have to defend. Sven Skeren's caught up by the explosive cast. He goes down. Sven takes him out. A 5-man knockout from the Stranglethorns will not deter G2. North America in a 5-on-4. Use the Equalizer. That shockwave connects. Wild Turtle and Bioshock are forced away from the tower. And G2 continue to siege.
This is huge momentum for G2. They're inside the base.
The base towers are down. The Nexus is the focus. Sven continues to play on the front foot. 45 seconds before Sven Skeren comes alive. G2, they're not done with the siege.
Oh, they're getting a bit greedy right now. Trick is low. Bjergsen!
Expect and Perks catch him out. Haunter flashes forward. It's a flame splitter. Redemption comes down to heal up G2. And now the Nexus turrets are the focus.
So many crucial flashes used here. G2 are able to get the first Nexus turret.
But Bjergsen wants to try defense, wants to stop G2. G2 are buying into the hype, the craziness, the chaos. They're not stopping.
G2 right now has a late game comp. They don't need to risk it all on this play right now. But they're staying. They're so low on HP.
The confidence is there. Bjergsen's caught down. He's down. The Bjerger King is down. Wild Turtle follows immediately after. G2 eSports have killed Team Solo Mid. They've routed them. They've aced them. G2 eSports, they're taking down the Nexus turret, stun Team Solo Mid, and G2 shot at International Redemption stays alive.
G2 eSports, they asked for support. They wanted the European fans to trust them going into this tournament. Shaky moments, but in the very end, they take down TSM and they guarantee at least a tiebreaker.
And of course, that tiebreaker can be determined by head-to-heads. It can be determined without a game being played. It is pending the follow-up results. What that also means is Team Solo Mid is not yet eliminated. There is still a hope. The North American champions.
All eggs in the Sven basket.
And what a basket it was. Exactly like you said, the very end there. G2 able to clutch it.
Very good though, very good for TSM. They won earlier today.
G2 suck in the early game. Another time they struggled.
That's right, they just pick full late game now. Like, we know we suck in the early game, let's just surrender it anyway without comp. Rely on late game.
And of course, you do have to step back. TSM took down the Flash Wolves earlier today. They were behind for a lot. They didn't make mistakes. They didn't get caught out. And the TSM today showed up that it may have been too late.
TSM are guaranteed some type of tiebreaker.
Yes. It just depends on who it's going to be with. And then, of course, the implications over the next two results. But what a phenomenal game. I mean, 50 minutes down. This time, G2 managed to siege the Nexus and don't bollocks it up. They managed to take it down because that was risky.
Oh, it was definitely risky in the end. Bjergsen came back with full HP. But expect a man who's again received a lot of criticism during this tournament, also for his Gragas play, actually had some really good engages right here. And he was the man who found Bjergsen in the end, but also Svenskeren before that, that gave them that push towards the Nexus.
As we've highlighted so many times leading up to this, the Gragas, the playmaking ability, and he comes through when it counts.
All right, do we like Nunu? Kobe, now what's it, 1 and 2 now for Trick?
What's the scenario we're talking about? Because it did pay off here. If all of your eggs are going to be played in Sven's hands.
End quote right there.
All right, G2 Esports going to round this one out again. As you said, they've not guaranteed their placement just yet, but there will be tiebreakers. We'll look at the rules and see how they manage to advance. But for Team Solo Mid, heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. A game they're ahead for, God, 40 minutes of gameplay, significantly ahead.
Right.
Only to thwart it again at the Baron.
And again, this game went a lot like expected. We talked so much about that in the early game, how, you know, TSM's comp would get the early advantage, they would use it to get a goal lead, set up these Drakes and then a Baron, and they did all those things. Problem was when it came to actually closing in the very end, there's small things to look at. Haunts are getting caught as well, buying time for G2. Then, of course, the engages later.
That pathing mistake that ended up costing Haunts. Anyways, that does it for us for now. G2 have kept their hopes alive. Shox is standing by with the man who rules the mid lane kingdom, at least today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Trevor. Indeed, he does today. He's been doing really well, but that game, it was almost a carbon copy in terms of the flow of the game as that first one, but what was different?
Well, we know that we are not doing so well early game, so let's just go for late game. That's our plan right now. And I kind of missped this game, even though I have no jungle, so I can't really pressure, but I should never die to this gank level 3, which was really horrible. I also missped in laning trades, so I think I'm part of the reason why the game fell behind early game this time around.
Still, you guys had that late game insurance, but as we remember, the first game you had the base race and it fell short. This time around, it's a risky move to stay and to try and finish it, but what was the calling like and what was it like to kind of overcome that pressure that they weren't wrong last time around?
Well, the last call, I think it was the right call. We could have ended, but unlucky, incidents have happened. This time around, it was risky again, but our top laner had a call that he'll flash on Jace, so it was so many chaotic comms, but he was like, trust me, and he flashed on Jace and we ended after, so it was really nice of him.
Well, so many of this tournament, or so much of this tournament has been about which team can keep their cool after a loss and which team can rebound. And you guys now have taken a huge step towards that. Is that something you feel personally as well, going into the possible tiebreaker scenarios?
Well, I think it sure benefits us because our mental strength is actually pretty high. We've been through so many defeats already, and through so many close games. So I think we can do good in tiebreaker.
Finally, I just want to put the spotlight on you for a second, Perks, because you said, I don't like how I've played here, but over the tournament so far, you have done an exceptional job. How much does that carry in your confidence, and how much can you impose that on the rest of the team as well?
Well, I have a lot of confidence going into any middle matchup, any champion-wise too. So maybe it gives my team some confidence in draft, or makes it easier for them, but I think my team is doing a really good job late game too, especially Sven. He carries every game late, so we have this going for us.
One final thing, when I talked to Bjergsen after when they won the first time, he said, well, this doesn't decide EU versus NA, the next game will. Now it's 1-1. Is there anything you have to say on the matter?
Well, right now it's 1-1, and I lost to NA a couple of times before, so I can't really judge, but I guess EU is better than NA.
Risky move, Perks, but thank you very much. Congratulations. We'll see you later on. And for now, more on that game. Let's head over to the analyst desk.
Thank you, Shocks. G2 strike back, revenge on TSM for that narrow loss that they received a couple days ago. Crepo, what are you thinking here?
I think Shocks just did him dirty. Perks has spent half a year becoming the non-cocky king, you know, just to focus on the gameplay, let the results speak for themselves. He had a great interview where he was humble, you know, praising his teammates, admitting mistakes. And then right at the very end, Shocks hits him with the EU over NA, and he just can't resist.
And you just know front page Reddit. That's all that's clicked out. It's just the EU
Perks
NA.
said EU is better than NA.
Now, what's important to note here is that this doesn't necessarily guarantee G2 in just yet. So if the Flash Wolves win in the next game, G2 is in straight away. If the Gigabytes win in the next game, it forces a three-way tie where everyone's at 1-1, and we'll have to play through that. TSM, for all of you fans at home, don't worry, you still have your opportunity at a tiebreaker later in the day. That's the implications of this game. Now let's break it down. Within this, we saw and we heard from Perks just now, G2 wasn't confident in the way they'd been playing early necessarily throughout the tournament, so they were happy to go late. They draft a comp that does exactly that. TSM not able to apply just enough pressure to get it done in time.
Yeah, and it's really about TSM stalling to try to break out that base. And you do have a lot of wave clear options on G2's composition. You got the Caitlyn, you have the Orianna, even the Gragas to an extent. But I just love how much zone control is stacked onto G2's comp. Like, you don't really ever see Nunu, so you kind of forget how to play around him. But his ability to slow everything down, to set the line of scrimmage for that Caitlyn to really go off, was phenomenal this game.
Yeah, it really was. And I think that the early game was played very well from TSM, getting vision control in their opponent's jungles, moving back and forth between lanes, sieging the turrets. But it all kind of broke down at that first Baron, where 2 games in a row now, they've had very poor base timings, and they give up essentially a free Baron. I mean, they're not staggering their bases. This is 3-4 members from TSM all basing at the same time.
5.
By the way, this is like 28 minutes into the game against Caitlyn Nunu. I mean, what are you thinking? And this is, to me, where TSM really broke down.
Yeah, and it's very symptomatic if you're a team playing against an opponent that doesn't want to play League of Legends. This is what happens. Like, you try every move and they're just turtling in their shell, in their jungle. And G2 at this point have not done anything proactive for well over 20 minutes. So TSM, they want to optimize their next play, right? But then obviously sometimes you cut a corner and you realize you lose an Asher there, and it's so hard. Wrenching to go through that.
And trying to narrow down, you know, where is TSM's late game breaking down? And I feel like it's really in their vision control. You know, you can see the lines start to creep up, but it's very delayed. They're not contesting a lot of the jungle creeps. I mean, Azale, we were talking about this backstage. G2 still had so much control over their own jungle when they should have been completely relegated to their base, unable to leave all that. So all these scraps of gold ending up in Sven's pocket that shouldn't be available to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that everyone praises SKT for. As soon as SKT gets an edge and take map control, they foam both sides of the jungle the rest of the game, and that's how the gold leads really balloon. But TSM wasn't really able to do that this game.
Absolutely. The Baron goes over to G2, able to extend the game a little bit. Of course, our Acer replay will be the second Baron picked up by G2 and breaking TSM's base.
Yeah, this is just, it's a standoff for Equalizer. It's a good Equalizer if G2 gets pressured into that area. But there's not enough forward pressure. This is also the issue with the compositions. Later in the game, we have Gragas Nunu in the front line. But nobody on TSM's composition really wants to be the front line, so they have to kind of pick that lock by getting all the right moves in succession. The problem is it never really happened there, and then G2 get another Baron.
I mean, it's with any siege comp versus like a hard engage type comp like this, or a comp with strong front line, you kind of have to stay ahead or it can all break apart. And as we now the game ended, expect, Perks was talking about it, says he has his flash, knows he can catch Jace, and despite them actually delaying this out quite a long time, and Svenskeren was almost back up, they get the pick and they get the game.
A couple things here. First, gotta respect again the composure of G2 to operate in losing games and extend to late, as well as the decisiveness in the calls that they made for the Barons. On the flip side, gotta start questioning TSM and their inability to make the calls to go aggressive in some areas. If you know you're gonna get outscaled, I know it's scary sometimes, but at a certain point you gotta pull the trigger, try and break that base, commit to it fully. If you just let them extend the game over and over again, you're doomed to lose.
Yeah, G2 had a couple good stalling mechanics where they were using like Orianna ultis on waves, and they also caught Wild Turtle a few times in those that kind of stopped the snowball. They also had a really good item build adaptation that Azale pointed out in the game with the Bloodthirster.
Yeah, and I thought the Bloodthirster was actually super intelligent from Sven, because you already have a ton of attack speed coming in from the Blood Boil. You don't need your second Zeal item as fast, and there's not a lot of armor being built there. So you're actually going to get a ridiculous amount of efficiency out of the Bloodthirster, especially because you have the front line, which means you're going to be able to free fire much more easily.
And into those poke compositions to regain all that health back. And to be fair to TSM, you know, they did have a lot of those dragons, so there was that other win opportunity for them to look towards that Elder Dragon. Just unfortunately, they decided to take that smite against the Nunu and didn't work out for them.
Yeah, again, I'm not the one on the stage, so it's easy for me to sit here and say they should have made plays where they didn't. But again, G2 gets the better of TSM this time around. We have some more explosive games coming your way here in Rio after the break. The LMS's Flash Wolves hit the Summoner's Rift against Gigabyte Marines. Stay tuned.
Good thing I Biofrost his ass afterwards, because that was a wild turtle, if you know what I mean. Oh my god. I don't know what you mean.
NA versus EU from Rio.
Will Bergson actually go up?
I think he will. He's found it. Jackson finds Bergs and secures first blood.
Don't worry. Fine. Some.
Biofrost gets bounced under the tower. Stranglethorns will buy a lot of time, and the Equalizer cuts off the retreat path. Mithy and Trick are down. Double kill for Bjergsen.
Turtle's in though.
Pulled into the wall. While Turtles get tagged, a lot of damage. Mithy's being burnt down and killed. G2 in a 4v5. Make that a 3v5. Expect is burned alive.
If we burn it at the same time, we will win, right? Sure. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, nice. Kill Gragas, back up.
2 wants their cupcakes. Consume and Smite is available. Needs to be taken down. The Baron is the focus and Trick.
Oh my god, how did he do it?
By Expect. Follows immediately after. G2 eSports have killed Team Solo Mid. They've routed them. They've aced them. G2 eSports. They're taking down the Nexus turrets. Stun Team Solo Mid. And G2 shot at International Redemption stays alive.